This video is a brief introduction to scenery styles and the versatile painter tool. Start by opening the scenery toolbar and selecting the styles dialog. This shows the settings that will be used by Train Player for drawing any new scenery objects. We can demonstrate this by selecting the rectangle tool and adding a rectangle to our layout. The image is drawn using the settings that were displayed in scenery styles. If this is not what we wanted, we could have made our adjustments in the styles dialog, but we can also change the default values by setting the default style to match any other scenery item on our layout. To do this, select the Edit Scenery tool, right-click on the source image, navigate to Style on the context menu, and select the option to use as default. If we draw another rectangle, we can see that Train Player now uses the new default setting to draw the image. The context menu can also be used to copy and paste a complete style from one scenery image to another. If we draw a new rectangle and open the Styles dialog, we can see that the copy and paste operation has not affected the default setting. The versatile painter tool can be used to copy and paste background colors, or background bitmap and line styles onto existing scenery objects. Select the painter tool from the scenery toolbar, and note the color swatch that appears on the tool button. Also note the reference to the Shift key and the dropper which appears briefly on the status bar. Keep the painter tool selected and observe the cursor as you move the mouse. When the standard cursor arrow is displayed, a left click will have no effect. This means that the underlying object is not in the active scenery layer. Whenever the cursor changes to a bucket icon, a left click will apply the current swatch color to the underlying scenery object. All painter tool actions are undoable. Here we backtrack using the undo button on the quick access toolbar. You can pick up any color from the display with the dropper tool. This is attached to the painter. To use the dropper, just hover the mouse over the required color, then press and release the Shift key. The cursor image will change briefly from the arrow to a dropper, and the swatch color on the painter button will be updated with the new color. To apply the new color to a scenery image background, hover the paint bucket icon over the part of the image to be painted, and left-click the mouse button. We can use this same technique to pick up the tie color, and apply it to the four roof vents on the D's Goods grouped image. The dropper tool can also be used to copy and paste a complete style from one scenery object to another. Hover the paint bucket icon over the style to be copied. Then briefly press the Shift key to activate the dropper. This adds the combined line and background styles to the swatch on the painter. Move the cursor to hover the paint bucket over the target image. Then left-click the mouse button to apply the swatch style to the target object. Note that painting a complete style changes the appearance of both line and background. Next we will use the context menu to delete the unwanted yellow rectangle. To restore the original settings to the two modified text labels, we draw a new rectangle using the default scenery style, because this still uses the settings which we cloned from the original labels. Then we can use the dropper and the painter to copy and paste this style to both of the labels. To apply a common architectural style to our buildings, we can use the dropper and painter to transfer the styles from the D's Goods image to the Team Track image. Remember to press the Shift key to pick up each style from D's Goods, and the left mouse button to apply the contents of the bucket from the swatch to the Team Track image. Next we will make a deliberate mistake. We want to pick up a texture from the background image, and apply it to a foreground object. We hover the mouse over the required image and press the Shift key. We forget to look at the swatch on the painter button before we paint the foreground object. The mistake we made was to pick up a background color, and not a scenery style. The correct procedure should have been, select the background layer, and use the Shift key dropper tool on the background to add the style to the painter swatch. Then reselect the foreground layer, to paste the contents of the swatch onto the foreground image. Next we copy the decking style to the dropper, paint it onto the rear rectangle, and delete the unwanted middle rectangle. We can then reselect the Edit Scenery tool, and adjust the relevant foreground image so that it crops the adjacent decking to the required shape. Finally, reselect the Run tool to close the Scenery toolbar, and don't forget to save your layout.